So you use a little pen, you need a little pen to stick on the pen.
Exactly, because we have a Roscoe Pound, bust who would get dressed up sometimes.
Because he would be usually coming to the library.
So it's interesting because you have no idea,
Apparently the system was pretty good. So, I bet you they were the in IT, there's an actual multi-unit list of stuff. And whenever anybody asks you how long it's going to take the actual amount of time it's going to take. So that when you do the actual it's just a
no, that was for waivers. That was for
I think we're ready to get started here. My name is Steve Nelson. I'm at Marquette University's Law School, and I'm joined by Robin Schard from the University of Miami. And we are going to beat the surfing metaphor to death today, since no one else has used that next wave metaphor that I've seen. Anyway, today we're going to talk about citation tools, citation management tools. There are a whole slew of them. We are picking 3 of them, 3 that are readily available in academic institutions. We're going to look at Refworks, Mendeley, and Zotero. Begin with an overview of the services, and then we're going to look at some of these specific features. So our project, as it typically works out, you're given that research project, or you're assigning that research project, or you're collaborating with your library liaison, and you're going to combine those research skills with that subject knowledge. And with every research project, somehow it escalates into a way that really requires some extra management. It can be overwhelming, divergent paths, keeping track of a thread that you started on one end and you realize it might be more beneficial in another project or a subsequent article. So you're just keeping your tools prepped, waiting for that project to come, and I think this video is a pretty apt metaphor for how these things work out. You're minding your business, your professor comes along, you have this research assignment, and said, I'm going to help you get started. I know some great resources that I've used before. We're going to begin this project together. Great collaboration. A couple of different meetings, talk over some of the results. No charge. Which I guess now is a bad thing. And at some point, you start finding those resources. They start piling up behind you. Complexity grows. You may feel that
This is making me a little nervous.
perhaps it's this project might be a bit overwhelming because these resources I'm being swamped with. You're wondering, is this going to end well? What do I need? What do I need to make all this work? And me, the metaphor is citation management tools to navigate the water safely, cleanly, to go do a project another day. So that's the surf metaphor. And in your surfing research quiver, what are those tools that you have? If you don't have that Intel Wi-Fi surfboard, so you can continue your work, which actually exists. I don't know what the where you put the access point, but maybe now they've tied it in with your cell phone. What are those things that you're looking for in those tools? To take your search results and manage them, to store them, to add your own language to them. Creating bibliographies, share them, hopefully being able to seamlessly integrate them with your work product, and depending on what the output is, multiple formats. In the search, you're going to be looking for, we all are, web, library catalogs, services like Hein Online, JSTOR, those more traditional academic database vendors, EBSCO, ProSource, Cambridge Journals, and of course, Lexis and Westlaw. Lexis and Westlaw present some unique challenges, challenges that we don't have in using the other services and extracting that citation information from them and incorporating them with citation managers. Different flavors of Lexis and Westlaw have different functionality. Lexis Academic fully integrates with the commercial services like Refworks and EndNote. Lexis for law schools does not. And depending on how you output or save your sources, you may get some of that metadata and you may not. We will talk later about how to use those sources, because obviously they're key to what we do, and how to integrate them. So where are you going to store the stuff? You store your citations and perhaps storing all your results, so the full text of the things that you search. Where are those documents? Where are those citations? Are they desktop-based, out on the cloud? Are they shareable, accessible through mobile devices, accessible through multiple users, multiple platforms? We talked about management, citation. What is the citation format that's required for publication? Most of us are familiar with Blue Book, but you may be submitting to a journal, MLA, or have another citation format. And are your resources portable between these different citation formats? The use of the metadata in extracting information for those citations may be provided. My experience has been, I get the best metadata using different universities' research commons, if that's what it's called, or their archives of electronic journals, because people producing those are very concerned about good metadata. Other ones, not so successful. As I work through my project, I may be creating my own taxonomy. So I'm calling things perhaps that indexers may not. It may be just terms of art that either I have or my collaborators have, and I'll be able to use those with custom notes, custom fields, and improve the searchability and retrieval as this database grows. The most common is throwing in a tag that says, read this, cite this, don't cite this. And is it all searchable? What is it that I can find? Is it going to search my notes? Is it going to search the metadata? Is it going to search the full text of the document that I've saved? And then what are you going to do with it? It's that being able to integrate with your word processing and have that portable citation format. So from Blue Book to MLA. But what about all those other things out there? There are a number of other citation management tools. There are ones that cost money and that are licensed usually through your university and then licensed individually down to you, like EndNote. There are mobile type apps like JabRef, things like that. I'm focusing on, Robin and I are focusing on the three that we've chosen, Refworks, Zotero, and Mendeley, because I found that they're the most commonly used and have the best support documents from other academic institutions. So with the devices, desktop, tablet, phone, which ones work well? Do they fully integrate across all these platforms? What about storage? If it's a service-based storage where the service maintains it, what about size? How do I expand that? What if you're using, say, you've integrated with your coursework, things like Dropbox? So our test platform is, we have two researchers, thousands of miles apart. We're working on the same project, multiple devices, and our topic is, we have actually two topics that we're going to show. One is standards-based grading and assessment, particular focus in the law school. The other is piracy in the open seas, with the focus on piracy and, say, cruise lines, commercial travel, those sorts of things.
That's mainly because I have a short attention span and I don't like working on the same project for too long, so we have to mix that up a little bit. So we're gonna cover the same thing for each of the three platforms. So we're gonna start with Refworks, and since I've seen a few of these presentations and sometimes they can get off track. Who puts the mouse on the left-hand side?
Sometimes that's why
We're thousands
collaborators
miles apart.
are thousands of miles apart.
We actually did videos so that we wouldn't miss anything, although I might be stopping in the middle, who can say. So Refworks is usually licensed by the larger academic institutions. So for me and at Marquette, it's subscribed to by the university library. So that doesn't cost us anything extra. The platform is web-based. There is also mobile access. You can sign in anywhere you have access to the internet, so it's very use and go. It also seems to be browser neutral, at least on all of the browsers that we tried. So if you don't like to use some of the other ones that are more browser non-neutral, this is a good one. So basically, what we're doing. This one I was using the pirate theme. So just standard academic database. This is Cambridge journals. I picked the specific title, International and Comparative Law Quarterly. So this is going to work the way most of the academic resources do. So you do your search, and you can actually, usually the way I would look is, since I have a list, I would look at the articles, make sure that they are interesting. I can actually mark these as a group and then export them as a group, but normally I'm doing more of a refined search, so I would choose the journal, the article that looks the most interesting to me, right, or the topic. Which sometimes I have no interest in whatsoever, of course. But then once I choose it, I'm going to export the citation. Since this is an academic journal, there are actually lots of different formats to export this in, including RIS, which is kind of the generic standard. So if your product isn't on the list, you have the option to do the RIS. But since we are using Refworks and this is an academic journal, there's actually a direct export function. So obviously then we have to log in. This is, there's actually 2 steps to logging into Refworks through my institution. First, when I'm remote anyway, so this account I can keep ahead of time. I have to create ahead of time. And then once I've imported it, I can go right to the last imported, and I can actually view all the dupes to make sure that I haven't already downloaded this document. So that's the imported version. I can rearrange the way that they're all listed, and I can actually modify the what's been imported. So if I want to clean that up here, I'm going to go over edit in a second. I can copy the site from here. So if I don't have the plugin that I'll show you in a second, this will actually export this to export the citation part, so then I can copy and paste it into there. I also have folders. You can see I have my piracy folder. Tried to get an image, but I couldn't get any skull and crossbones there. On the right-hand side, so I can just import those to the folder. But they'll also stay, it's kind of a duplicate, so they'll also stay in the library in addition to being in the folder. And that's, drag and drop. All right, so the other thing is, right, so then you have this whole group of articles, and then you're actually writing your article, or the faculty member's writing their article. So the next thing is to be able to import those citations. Refworks has a plugin called Write and Cite, which you can get on the Refworks website, and that will work with Word. And once you you're inputting your really exciting article, there is once you download Write and Cite, there is a Refworks, I don't know if you can read that at the very top, but it's a Refworks tab that will let you insert your citation. Notice, you can't notice, but at the very top, in very tiny letters, you can see that next to style, I've already selected Blue Book. So there is a Blue Book format for this. It's actually built into Refworks, but it's kind of, you have to go to select other styles, and then even more styles, and then you have to search it. But it's not like you have to go out and get something extra. So it is there. Of course, once you use it, it stays at the top. From there, it's all downhill. You choose the folder that you have your documents in. You choose the article and insert it. And then, of course, you spend a few minutes fixing it because it's not exactly Blue Book, even though it said it would be, right? And I would appreciate it if you don't correct my Blue Book in public here, because obviously I almost forgot to put the period at the end, but I remembered last minute, so it's not quite so bad. But so it does take a little bit of cleanup, but it's certainly a lot easier than starting from scratch. So that's the canned version. This is the live version apparently I was really being lazy when I created my accounts and the capital letters were too much. So at least I didn't use all caps. I've seen other people do that. So basically, like I said, tools, Write Insight is right here. So you can actually get it from without having to go and find it. One of the nice things on Refworks is the ability to edit the citations. Okay, all of the options that we're going to look at have the ability to edit the citation, but this one lets you do kind of some more advanced things. First of all, we just uploaded this citation. You can also attach the actual article if you want to have that here as well, which is if you're going to do a lot of full text searching, that's useful. And you can actually add additional fields. So these are all kinds of bibliographic fields, you know. For the librarians among you, you can add additional information, but you can also add personal notes, anything you want to put. You can copy the abstract if you want, again, to be able to search that on here. Place of publication, anybody? No? Okay. So other than that, you can also include, nice thing, the shortened title. We have a lot of, after you work with an article for a while, sometimes you'll know it as a specific title. These user notes, everything here is searchable, by the way, so you can add additional user notes and you can group them as well. As Steve mentioned, you may want to put something like do not cite this article or any sort of little notes that you want to choose, and you can add those here. One thing from Monday's lecture, you can export, or Monday, what was that, Thursday? 6 weeks ago. You can export everything from this database. So again, if you need to go on from here, you can. Good, I think that's everything on the basics of how Refworks works.
Call that the angel of death feature. So Mendeley was an independent product. Now it's part of Elsevier. For some of you, that may be a good thing. For others, that may be a caution about perhaps a direction that Mendeley is going. Right now, it's free. It's web and mobile. I found that iPad, it's a little bit flaky, although it does work. And it works as a browser plugin. And for all these sources, you actually create an account at the service. So you have your Refworks account, you'll have a Mendeley account. You'll be able to sign in through the web to use the Mendeley, to access the web service, say it's on your iPad. There's also the Mendeley desktop. And in my case, I'm working on a desktop at my desk, a laptop also at my desk sometimes, and also an iPad. So I'm looking for, I don't need to store everything from every device, but I really want that access. I want to be able to refer back, and if I can retrieve that article again, that'd be great also. Here we're using Hide Online, and we're searching for grades or grading. And again, you'd review what you've retrieved, and you may go in and read that abstract or read the full article before you decide whether or not you're going to keep that citation and keep that article. So you decide that you have a good article and you'd like to save to Mendeley, which is a browser plugin. If we have laser beams or anything on our pointers. It's the first favorite on the favorite bar, next to apps, saved to Mendeley. And again, you either will have signed in previously or your browser remembers your Mendeley username and ID, but it brings up that Mendeley window. You can edit or you can open it in Mendeley. And here we really have to clean up that citation. You can also see which format you've downloaded things, either as PDF or as just citations. It will also give you a little web icon if you're marking a web page. The literature search function takes you to Mendeley's resources. So you are searching other people's archives, perhaps for similar materials. Mendeley's built on a collaborative platform. The idea is that you're going to use social networking tools to find like-minded researchers or like-topic researchers, and that you'll be able to expand your resources and your network using Mendeley. So Mendeley is, the Twitter or Facebook for those scholars. I'm a little cautious about this. One is that we're working in topics that may require a lot of sensitivity. And it's one thing to ask a colleague or a known scholar in the field and collaborate that way. It's another thing to sort of just tweet sex assault, grade schools, guidance counselors, I'm doing a project, who wants to come help? Or who has other information? So I'm cautious about this, very cautious.
Is there a way to opt out of that so that your archive isn't certain?
Yes, so your archive can remain private. You don't have to join any other networks. You can stand alone. So these are materials that other researchers have tagged.
Did you find something useful from the other researchers?
I really hadn't spent any time on that,
Okay.
in that my sense is when you're trying to be more comprehensive in your searching and you're trying those variety of databases, you've probably, hopefully done the same thing. And that as you get into perhaps more detailed research, you're looking at very specific authors and you're following that thread rather than performing that search again just in this aggregation of other databases. Some people may find that that's the best place to start because everyone else has already done all the work for you. But I'm a pearl grower, so I like to work from those good articles and just expand outwards that way.
You do have to be a little careful because people can actually upload their own articles, so they're not necessarily vetted. So you do have to make sure that what you're looking at is something that's been edited and not written by a sixth grader or something.
And you have the same folder management. You can also sync. If I'm at my desktop and I'm saving these articles, I can sync those results so that when I'm online on my iPad, everything's together. The feature I like the most about Mendeley is that it will actually, when you identify a folder, it will crawl that folder and extract that metadata and add those citations. So it's very common to have someone send you an article as an attachment. I have my Mendeley folder, I have my subject folders within that. I throw them in there, and Mendeley will crawl that and tell me what's in it. It doesn't work well with briefs. Case law is different. It doesn't seem to handle that metadata. And part of that is the way that we're getting that material. So if Robin is going to send me party briefs and something, she may have opened it and edited it or done other things, or it may have come without much info from the court. And the info that it has, your docket number may become your publication, that sort of thing. So again, you have to clean up the citations that it thinks that it's taking. And again, there's a word plugin.
I think you plagiarized my article.
I did. It was so powerfully written. Here we have the two-step. You're going to use the Reference tab to insert the citation. And then it's going to pop up. And there, you can see the, I'm sorry, I'll back up. You can see there's a little Mendeley logo on the insert citation. So that's what brings up that dialog to then search your resources. It does smart typing, so if you're going by author, SCHAR, it's going to bring up all of those names. You can cite right to Robin's article. And with any of these citation managers, cleaning up the actual Blue Book, what it thinks is Blue Book, and again, this is actually Robin's citation, so I have no responsibility for format. And the confirmation was to keep the manual edit, and that's just confirming within this document. So it's not changing the citation if I were to use this cite to this again and again in other subsequent articles or emails or something like that. It doesn't change globally that citation. We had the same functionality for custom searching. Where'd the mouse go? This is Mendeley's website. And through sharing, I can create a group. I added Robin to that group. She can accept, she has to have a Mendeley account. And then I'm able to select what gets shared from my resources to that group that I've created. It tells me that I've used 2 out of 3 in my sharing. So I suspect that there is a fee for additional sharing. And with each of these services, your storage is limited. It's significant, but it's not limitless. With Refworks, that's managed by your campus. So you have a campus Refworks administrator, and they can expand your storage at any time. With the others, like Google or Box or any of the other ones, you just pay more if you need more, or pay something if you need more. Did I not spell that right? You can, with all the services, either open the archive that you've saved to the service, or it will try to follow the link that you accessed it from. I keep bumping up, especially when I go mobile, authentication issues, because I've downloaded this from my desk using ProSource and everything else, and I don't have the VPN on my phone. So when I'm looking at that source and I just want to look at the article, there's an authentication issue. So that may lead you to say, oh, I'm just going to, you can save then those articles full text. But again, that's going to take up storage space. As I said before, Mendeley will crawl your desktop or folders that you have identified and ask Mendeley to crawl. And it will extract that information for you. And again, you can drop those into your Mendeley folders. I also use the actual subfolders within that to keep things arranged correctly.
All right, so last but not least is Zotero. Zotero is open source, so no cost. No cost. It does really like Firefox. That's where it was originally designed. They have added some other flexibility, but not everything seems to work in other browsers. So it really is married to Firefox at this point. There is a mobile bookmarklet, which hopefully that'll go away because I can't say the word bookmarklet. So, but it acts differently than your actual full version. So great, same process. Just trying to get you an idea of what it works on. What it looks like on different databases. So we'll just do our generic standard-based grading search and get our results. So one thing to notice, I don't know if you can see at the top, there's a little folder in the address bar. So if you, again, want to do multiple articles at one time rather than a single one, if you click that, it'll let you choose the articles that are on this list, so you can do several at a time. But I'm not good at that, so I usually try to focus on the specific option. So at the top you have your little Z, and that will let you actually manually input the article. So if you want to manually input this article, or if you're working in a database where it's not pulling the correct data, you can actually manually add that. There's all types of formats. The most commonly used are in that list, but there's actually more on that list, and the main ones are in that heading. You can just click on those. One thing to keep in mind also at the top, you have other things that you can do. So we're going to do regular export, but you can also click the second icon, and it will save the web page that you're browsing at. So that's good. Particularly if you're if you're trying to record specific information on web. The second little magic wand is what I consider a fun feature that will let you input standardized information. I know I have a low threshold for fun, but what can you do? So that will let you put in things like ISBN or the DOIs for the articles, PMIDs, so you don't have to edit or input or even pull up the article if you have that information, but also good for pulling things from Amazon or from library catalogs that don't have the export feature built into them. All right, so like I said, you could manually input the information, but since we're using a standard academic journal, we don't need to. We can just go to the export function. And that will give us all of the options. As I mentioned, you have the RAS format, which works in all of these different databases, or all of these citation managers, including Zotero, but you can see some of the other ones, so that's kind of the generic one. And that will actually export it directly to Zotero, and then I spend a lot of time on this end fixing the citation because each of the academic databases does something slightly different. Notice that I can add an attachment, so again, if I want the article itself here, I can attach it and connect it to the citation. So that's just to blow up the screen because, like I said, spend some time editing. Of course, you want to edit on this side so that when you go to the adding the citation part, it's just a matter of clicking and adding rather than having to go through all of this each time you cite to this article. You can see my really slow typing skills. And you can ask me later, I have a long story about why I wasn't allowed to take typing 2 in high school. So there is another plugin for Word to add citations. This is going to be an add-in when we look at Word. I copied your article, yeah, funny. So you do have the option. You can do, as with Mendeley, just start typing in anything from the article, from the database, the author, title, whatever, and it'll fill that in. I like the classic view because it gives me, I can see everything, so I can choose the folder that I want to find the articles in, choose the article. Notice that it gives me the option, which is great for legal citation, to include the pin site. So that's what the page number is. The start page is already fixed, is already in the record, but the pin site is not, so that lets me do that. I can add multiple sources. All of these have this option. And then I have to go through and, of course, fix the citation. But notice it's a lot less fixing here that's required here than was in the other two. And actually, now that I know how it's going to display, I can go back into the database and just get rid of the page range, which now I would know that all the time. So this is built into the browser, but since I'm not on my browser, I don't have access to it. I have access to the web page, which again will let you do some of the functions. But if you sign in to Firefox, then you can use Zotero as you normally would. All right, so that is the way they would normally work. So one thing, just to Steve covered this a little bit, but each one of the options, we usually are working with multiple people on a research project, so sharing is very important. Each of the products we just looked at does have a way to actually share information. So on Refworks, it's the Organize and Share folder, which then gives you the little icon. It's even teeny tiny when you look at it on your own screen, let alone up here, to actually choose the folder that you want to share. When you share, it's called RefShare, and it will give you an URL, a website to send. According to the instructions from my institution, this doesn't work for people outside of the University of Miami, but in reality, it does work for people outside the University of Miami. I haven't decided whether I'll point that out or not, but so that may be a little issue with Refworks.
Whoever you share with needs to have an account.
Yes. The Zotero, I'm trying to figure out which one of this is. This is out of order, right? So with Zotero, you can create the group. So you can have a public group, if you really want to share all of your research, you can really make that completely public. Remember, that's really the citation manager, not the documents. You can have a sort of closed and open, or I think what most people would use would be the completely private membership, which you send an invitation to someone who then has access to a specific file or specific folder, and then it ends up being a shared group, and you can just drop in either folders or articles. For Mendeley, there are two types to share. In the top box, you have the share icon that lets you share individual folders or individual files. And then you also have the invite colleagues, where if you want, it's kind of the social media version of citation managers, right? If you want to share your research, it's like a following. Somebody is following somebody else. I don't like anybody else's research enough to want to do that, but certainly some of the faculty might be working with the same colleagues over and over again, so that might be useful to them. All right, what's next? I wanted to get the one with the shark bite out of the surfboard. So some of the problems with the databases we talked about a little bit, or with the citation managers we talked about a little bit. The big one with Refworks is that it is connected to your university. So when you are no longer at the university, you no longer have the same account. Now you might be moving to another university. That's a downside for the students who will hopefully eventually graduate. And certainly sometimes the faculty have been known to move around a bit as well. So that's always going to be a downside to Refworks. Obviously there is the export function, and a lot of universities give the students a grace period where they can't add anything more to Refworks, but they can download for 6 months after they leave the institution or something like that. So that's always going to be a big downside to Refworks. The other thing is the control issue, right? You don't control it usually. It's usually your university library or somebody at the university level that controls it. That includes who can access it. If the subscription is going to cancel, I don't know. I haven't heard of anywhere it's all, the university has decided to cancel their accounts, but I'm sure there are stories out there. Storage space and the functions can be controlled at that administrative level too. So how much freedom you have may change. Doesn't work with Office 365 yet, so that's going to be, I guess, a growing issue. And it mainly works best for these types of academic databases that we've looked at. It's not really great for websites or for documents that don't appear with the metadata and everything already built in. Although you can manually add things like Westlaw documents and Lexis documents, it just takes a little longer.
Mendeley, what could possibly go wrong? A researcher who I really respect had a very long piece on why she abandoned Mendeley. And it gets into sort of that Facebook, who owns it, who owns my comments, who owns my notes, and in particular, what is going, is Elsevier going to hold my material hostage for some financial reward? Or are they going to leverage this stuff to their benefit, and how are they going to monetize everything that I've done? I think it's a really compelling argument.
It's known as the evil empire argument.
Yeah. I'm not completely convinced, but again, that's something to be very cautious about. The privacy issue, I think, is something else to be cautious about. And as with anything, you can overshare. And I think you need to be aware of that it is perhaps easier to make that mistake in Mendeley. Looking for like-minded researchers might open the door to, oh, now everybody knows who I am. And I didn't want that. It's not a real intuitive interface. And I think that there is a learning curve with this. And there are some compatibility issues, again, with Office 365. For our students on our campus, they cannot they can't license Office the way they used to. They get the license for Office 365. And so what we may find is that down the road, things like plugins and that sort of thing are difficult to come by. Refworks and Mendeley have both said that it's in the works, but we'll see how that plays out. And these first two are also Office. That's the compatibility. So if you have OpenOffice users, if you have people who are using other things, there will be that problem. The other thing is, Robin and I both, as we approach this, approaching it from a faculty librarian perspective. It's not for one else. They're not working on the same topic consistently over an academic career. And so that's where you get the benefits from something like this, is that by maintaining and having that archive of your research and of your results, I think that that's where the benefit is. And I think that we send students chasing technology that's not reinforced other places in the curriculum. And so, for example, if you're a case map user, they may use it in your class, but they're never going to use it again until they get to practice. And so rather than introduce this, there may be some students who are on that academic career path. You may want to introduce it to them. At this point, I don't feel that any of these tools are something that are really appropriate for most of our law students.
The law review students maybe when they're working on their own articles, because again, they have everything and the citation is a lot easier. Of course, when they're fixing other people's citations, they may be wondering why they're not using something like this. Was that all you had on Mendeley? Yeah. So for Zotero, there is always the Firefox. If you're not a happy Firefox user, it may not be best for you. And as I said, that's kind of, some of the functions work in other browsers, but not everything at this point. I think this is why you gave me the bookmarklet. Doesn't work so well in Safari, so that's not a good issue. If you can't log into Firefox, then you won't. The web-based version of Zotero doesn't do the same things either. And also, if you're going to use Zotero over a long period of time, you might have some issues because it can get too big where things will start to freeze up. So at that point, you may be looking at having maybe multiple accounts or something so people can. So that doesn't happen because there's nothing more frustrating than that.
The elephant not in the room. Lexis and Westlaw. As was mentioned earlier, not super friendly, especially with the new formats, with your downloading to folders, to their folders, saving things to your desktop, how it generates. My experience has been when you're generating a PDF, I'm getting my search as metadata, which then is really screwing up what's being displayed in the citation managers. Best practices, for me, have involved a really long workaround. And one is that's downloading things, saving to PDF, being in that habit. Now only half of our students print everything, but that's been reduced a little. But the habit of saving in PDF, and as you're saving, then adding that record and correcting it as you go. The other is to use Google Scholar to retrieve citations, because all of these services are very, very, very friendly with Google Scholar. So I'll use, especially with cases, I'll use Google Scholar just to hit the site and then extract that metadata using the tool. So it's a long workaround and it's hard to explain to students. But as with anything, once you're in that habit and that workflow of doing it that way, I think it just becomes second nature. The ability to have that list of results out of Lexis and Westlaw and extract that entire list like we're able to do with some of the services, and then you would just pick 1, 3, 5, 7, and I'm going to export that. That's not there. So we really lose a lot of functionality, and that's probably a good reason why, as you're searching for support documentation on these 3 services, you're not finding a lot at law schools. One, I think there's such a focus on Lexis and Westlaw, and that overcoming the export metadata and the functionality issues. And it's very frustrating for me to be able to do the same searches in Lexis Academic and be able to export, but not be able to do it in Lexis for Law. But it's not all bad. Looking across the 3 services, do you want to?
So for Refworks, it was the easiest to use, the smallest learning curve, which it's being used by a wide number of people, constituents, so that kind of makes sense. It does work with very easily with most of the academic, most of your non-Lexis and Westlaw databases. And there's lots of academic support and documentation, and best of all for me, there are people who are supposed to be responsible somewhere else, so I don't have to be responsible for it. What did you
Mendeley, a plus is the sharing and collaboration, finding those like-minded researchers, crawling to find article archives. So I've got that folder on my desktop, and it will extract that metadata. Metadata is good, and the results of the crawl are good. It's web smart. It can archive pages, not just snapshots, and full documents.
Finished? Yeah. For me, if I to use these, I would choose Zotero as the best of all worlds. First of all, it was clearly the best in Blue Book citations, which if you don't enjoy fixing those as you go, that was important. It's not very difficult to use, and also I obviously don't have, since I'm working in and out of projects, I don't have a huge file of Zotero resources. It works pretty well with the web pages, with other formats. You can do everything from film and music to your generic journals and books. As I mentioned, dorky, very dorky. I like the standardization, how easy the standardization import with the DOIs, which we get at almost all of our academic databases now, or at the ISBNs. And it's pretty much everywhere that you can log into Firefox, so it's easy. It has portability because I'm often working in different places.
I think if you're well prepared and warned and know what the expectations are, what your expectations as the researcher in formatting them, any of these tools are going to be beneficial. They're difficult to dabble in, but know that when you get caught in that research rip current, with proper planning and calm nerves, you'll be able to get out of that successfully. Thank you. Questions, of course, we're going to run you into the break.